Thank you all for coming this evening. Welcome to the Missoula County Democratic Party meeting. Our forum on two sets of candidates for this May primary race. The first forum we'll have is from the three candidates from the Missoula Board of Commissioners, and then we'll have the candidates for sheriff on the Democratic primary ballot. I'm Dave Kendall, the chair of the Missoula County Democrats, and to moderate this program, I want to introduce Louis McCurdy.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Okay, everyone, good evening, and thank you for coming this evening. As Dave said, I'm Willis Curdy. I've had the opportunity to conduct a number of these, or moderate a number of these forums. And before we begin, I would like to kind of set up some housekeeping rules and ground rules for the forum this evening. First of all, we'll begin the forum by having each candidate introduce themselves, and they'll have 2 minutes to give 3 reasons why they're running for the county commission seat. Okay. Secondly, timing. Mary Gray is sitting here. She has a yellow card and a red card. The yellow card says 30 seconds. The red card says stop. Okay. And I think Representative Mowbray has had a chance to distribute some little white sheets of paper. Everyone in the room has the opportunity to ask a question, and Dave Kendall will bring them up to me, and we'll go through them, and we'll ask each one of the panelists. We'll rotate the question, who answers first, so no one is saddled with answering the questions first. Okay. Now, as I said earlier, we've conducted a number of these interviews, these forums. We've had great respect on the part of both the audience and the candidates, and we expect that will continue. Some of the questions that people ask might be, or probably will be, fairly incisive and maybe to the point of controversial. But we ask everybody to give the best answer they can give. And I would ask also that folks who are asking the questions not to specifically point a question to one of the candidates. Okay? Because then we'll redraft the question so that it applies to everybody. So anyway, what we'll do here is we'll probably go for about 45 to 50 minutes, depending on the number of questions that people have. So we'll begin with Nicole Rowley. She will give us her name and 3 reasons why she's running, and then we'll go right down the line.
Hi, I am Nicole Rowley, and I see a lot of familiar faces here today, and I appreciate very much all the support that I've had thus far. And why I'm running is that I've seen that we need change at the county level, and I have the energy, the vision, and the talent to bring it about. The commission needs to take the initiative and provide proactive leadership to avoid complacency and stagnation of the county. The commissioners have a unique opportunity to connect and move forward the diverse interests of the county and the city, and I'm excited to participate in and lead these efforts. We need to improve our public services and protect our investments, reduce crimes of sexual violence and support victims, upgrade our neglected fairgrounds and our library infrastructure, and provide viable transportation options to people both within the city and people from the outlying county areas. I work as a regulator for the Missoula County Health Department, and I've seen strengths and weaknesses. We do need better transparency, interagency cooperation, and streamlined public processes. It shouldn't be as intimidating, difficult, and time-consuming to deal with the county as it is, which is part of the reason the city kind of split from it. With my background in regulatory, as well as my background as a PhD scientist, I have the competency to research issues myself, rather than relying solely on staff recommendations. And I have the courage to stand up against unreasonable interpretations of regulations being used to prohibit businesses. As someone who's looked for jobs, in Missoula more than once. I'm concerned about the economy, and we need to be proactive about that to diversify and keep our talent locally. If you have issues, these resonate with you, or you have your own, and you want someone who can actually do something about it, we need to put someone on the commission with the energy, drive, project management, and leadership skills to actually get things done. I believe I am that person, and I'm the best person for this job, and I hope that I can count on your support.
Thank you. Mr. Davies.
Hi there, I'm Don Davies, and I've been a native Montanan all my life. Makes sense, huh? I'm third generation. My wife grew up in Bonner, I grew up in the Flathead, and we truly love Montana and the Missoula Valley. We met over in Helena and moved back here almost 25 years ago, and I've worked with the local governments in and around northwest Montana, doing cities, counties, school districts, fire districts, airports, all the issues that the county deals with on a regular basis. I have great experience, knowledge, and common sense that will work in as a county commissioner. I want to really focus on transparency in government. I have, in my work, I go out and look at a lot of governments, and we are not leaders in the issue of transparency. We are followers here at Missoula County. You can go on many websites around the state and see much better transparency, resolutions, minutes, actions, agendas, all the fun stuff that people love to read. But it's necessary to have a good government. In Bozeman, they put out a list of all the expenditures every week that they approve, so you can go in and see. So there's important issues to address, and I believe with my experience dealing with many of the counties and cities, towns, that I would be the best candidate for this job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Landquist.
Good evening, and thank you for holding this forum tonight. My name's Michele Landquist, and I am the incumbent running to hold my job as county commissioner. As a county commissioner, our work is fast-paced every day, and every day is guaranteed to be different. There are many moving parts, and anything can change any day, any time of that day. During my first term, I've worked hard on many issues and projects, and during my first term, I made many changes. I was surprised when I came in that the county wasn't doing recycling. I was surprised we didn't have LEED standards for remodeling and new building projects. We have those things now. We also had to go through the split of Office of Planning and Grants and make a new department, Community and Planning Services. So, it's easy to stand up here and make promises about what you will do. I know that I have a record of things that I've already done, and I'm very proud of that record. I've done a whole lot more. We have weed management policies now for all our county-owned lands, which we didn't have before. All the subdivisions that are lying dormant, that waiting to be developed, they now have to have vegetation plans for managing noxious weeds while those properties are just sitting there doing nothing. I worked long and hard to get back to Missoula after I was forced to move away as a kid because I'm a military brat. And I want to make sure that Missoula remains a great place to live for many future generations. We have some of the best people, the best environment here. We've got a lot of new initiatives coming up, more transparencies on the way with our new Chief Administrative Officer, things that we've already worked on. Responses. People never got responses before. I got that happening. There's a position statement out there in a basket in the hall of just a sample of the changes that I've made since I've been in office. I want to continue to work for all of Missoula County to make it a great place.
Okay, thank you. We'll begin this next question with Mr. Davies, and it comes from the questionnaire that was submitted to the candidates. And the question is, how has your work and community service in Missoula prepared you to positively contribute as a county commissioner?
Thank you. My daily work takes me out into the local government environment, and I work looking for problems and finding solutions for financial and other issues that come across my desk. We deal with grants and bonds and financing, long-range planning, budgets, and when I was the Stevensville School business manager, I was involved with all that. And when I worked at the Legislative Auditor's Office at the start of my career, I did performance audits, which is looking at effectiveness of government and efficiency, which don't always, that's kind of a misnomer, but we do have tools that I've used that will be effective in leadership, and I believe I can use those to better Missoula County move it forward.
Okay, thank you.
My turn. I've always been a champion of good causes. I've worked with kids, Girl Scouts, PTA, Lions Club, community councils, Lolo Community Club in Lolo, the Lolo Watershed Group, the Watershed Education Group. I know public process. I know how to bring people together on difficult issues, find out what the things are we have in common and the things that we don't have in common, work on the things we have in common, then tackle the more difficult issues. I understand public process and what it means for everybody to get a fair shake to say what's on their mind without feeling intimidated. I think that's very important when you're trying to get people involved in the process to make things better on the projects you're working on. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that I bring to the table, is making sure everybody feels comfortable and feels like they can participate without ridicule from others.
Okay, thank you.
One map down.
Through my work in the health department, I'm out there in businesses every day as the interface between the government and businesses and citizens. I manage the daycare program, so I'm very involved in the community in that way, as well as the group home program. I've managed to take several people who have a negative view of the government and the way they've been treated and the way things have gone for them, and create positive relationships. We're all really in it for the same thing. We all want a healthy, safe environment to live in, and the regulations really should be used as a guideline for that and as education to the public and to keep us all safe, not as unreasonable ways of prohibiting business or making things difficult for people when it's unnecessary. I've also worked for Head Start, which has given me great perspective into communities and the diverse issues that people can face and the challenges and how hard it is to get out of adversity. I think that's given me a great place to look at a community from. And as a scientist, I am used to failing and trying again and never giving up and persevering through adversity. I am used to being challenged, and I'm used to succeeding. I will keep pushing, I won't give up, and I won't just let things sit. I'm good at building consensus, but when there isn't a consensus, I can make an executive decision. I won't just sit there and let things stagnate at the county level like I feel that they are right now. And although things may not always be in my jurisdiction, I'm not just going to throw up my hands and say, I'm only a county commissioner, I can't do anything about it. You can always be an advocate and push for things, and I think that my background supports that very well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll begin with Mrs. Landquist in this question. How should the county deal with M2 Green's inaction on the toxic mess left at the former Smurfett Stone plant?
Well, I think we've already done that by requesting that it be listed as a Superfund site. But we all agreed that more testing needed to be done, but it was imperative to be able to move it forward to do the initial testing throughout the site, figure out what the hot spots were, what needs to be cleaned up, and what doesn't need to be cleaned up so that we can segregate those sites and let the owners come up with a plan for redevelopment of the sites that don't need to be cleaned up. But it should definitely be cleaned up, the river channel bank area restored to its natural habitat, and move forward from there. But that remains to be seen once it's officially on the Superfund list. It hasn't quite been listed yet. They've been given, I think, think they were given 6 months reprieve for more evaluation from the owner. What I think happened.
Thank you. Ms. Rowley?
So I am for the outcome, whether it becomes a super fund or it does not. We need to get moving on it and take care of it. It needs to be cleaned up, and it just needs to be done. I don't know what mechanism is best for that. I would need to do a little bit more research into it, but we need to make decisions and get going on it. It's another one of those issues that I feel has just kind of been sitting there waiting for a decision to be made.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Davies?
Thank you. I definitely agree that it needs to be cleaned up. The process, I'm not sure of because I have not been involved with that. I do know that I've been frustrated with the cleanup out at Champion site out there. With the logs in the river, people saying just leave them there. That creates danger. We need common sense in looking at this, and it's in splitting the area into specific sites, testing them, and moving forward is a good plan. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. This question begins with Ms. Rowley, and the question is, where do you stand on the Grant Creek Bike Trail, and what other bike trails do you support building outside of the city?
I am for supportive trail systems. I honestly don't even own a bike myself. I would love to, but I know it's huge in this area. I want trails to hike on, walk on, get around. It is a transportation option. People can bike to work from Lolo. It's really not that far, and I'm for plans that people want to have. Again, I'm not personally invested in the trail systems, although I'd love to have them and we need them. So I would like to see people's proposals on those and definitely move forward with what trail systems we can get in place.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Davies?
Thank you. I enjoy the trail systems around here, and I know that we need to focus on ones that are safety first. I remember driving in from Florence when we lived out there, and it was a snowstorm, and there were two bikers on the curves out there, and they were in the middle of the road, and there were wrecks. So we do need to focus on issues of safety first, and then recreation second. I'm not familiar with the Grand Creek bike path. I haven't been out that way. I know that the bike path out in Florence, where we lived before and now towards Clinton, are well used, and they're very much appreciated. I do worry about the cost of maintaining snow removal, maintenance, and those issues need to be addressed as part of the long range plan. Thank you.
Well, now I'm going to sound kind of like you, Don.
Yeah.
I do support all the trails that we can get. What the county and the city did a survey a couple years ago to ask people what they wanted more of. Did they want more parks? Did they want more trails? What kind of parks? What kind of trails? And the survey came back very clear that the people were pretty satisfied with parks and park services, but they wanted trails, trails, trails. No matter how the question was asked, trails is what the people have shown they want here. And I'm all in favor of the trails where we can find the money to build them. Some of them take private-public partnerships. Some of them take big grants like the Tiger Grant the county just got for the completion of the trail from Lolo to Missoula, which is just huge. It's been years in the making. A lot of people thought they'd be in wheelchairs by the time it got built. It's getting built. So I'm proud to say that. The Grant Creek one is one that has been applied for funding and missed it on the mark a couple different times, but it is on our radar to get built. It should get built, and it will get built. But also, when it comes down to maintenance, I've been one of these advocates saying it's great to be building these trails, but we have to maintain them. That, they're not being built necessarily to a standard to allow snow and ice to sit on them all winter long, or they start frost heaving, and before you know it, you have a bunch of crumbled up asphalt, and you don't have a trail. So I don't want to throw good money after bad or bad money after good and not have trails that are maintained as well. That's a big part of it. So I'm all for trails, and I'm all for maintaining those trails and finding those mechanisms to do them.
Okay, this next question will begin with Mr. Davies again. And the question is, do you support putting a local option gas tax referendum on the ballot. Why or why not?
Thank you. The local options gas tax, I do not really, I don't think I support it at this time because we have extra mill levies within the budget that can be used without having additional funding mechanisms put in place. The more complicated you get, the more with funding sources, the harder it is to control. I know that it would help bring in some money from the outside, but I don't think that's a real big issue. I think there are better ways to do it. With the county budget's 500 pages, and it's amazing, $100 million, and some of these ideas are good to look at, but implementing them may not be the right solution.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Landquist.
We've already talked about the gas tax once on the city and county level, and I do understand that the gas tax, for the monies that would come from a gas tax, have not been raised on the federal level since like the 70s, and on the state level since the 91, I think it was. And that, those monies go to help us build precious infrastructure that we all need. At the time that it was presented to the county for the commissioners to put it on the ballot, the split, it was for the city to use for sidewalks, and the way it would have been written was that the county wouldn't have been able to use it for roads, we would have only been able to use it for trails. Well, what the county really needs money is money to go into roads. So if there was some way we could flip that so we could use it that way, we would have been restricted, and the split wasn't going to be as even either. The city having more people, but maybe a smaller area, and geographically would have gotten more of the lion's share. I'd support perhaps the legislature raising it across the state and making it a more equal playing field, because gas tax or gas prices period, are one of those things that are constantly going up and down. The other thing that influenced me as a commissioner regarding the gas tax was the impact it would have had to not just businesses, delivery type businesses, but the people living in the rural areas that are already, as gas prices go up, the people in the rural areas already see these additional fuel delivery prices added to their bills on a regular basis, and people in the city would see it too. We heard loud and clear from the people of the county that they were against it, and we listened to their voices. It doesn't mean I wouldn't entertain it in a different manner at a different time. I will keep an open mind to it if it can be done in a more equitable fashion and be put to good use.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rowley?
I would support the implementation of a gas tax. I think it's up to the voters to decide. It just goes on the ballot. We're not saying we're going to do it. We're giving people the opportunity to vote on it. And it would diversify our tax base and give us money to perhaps support those trail systems that people want so badly. As far as being unfair, I commute from Lolo every day, and I'm willing to pay a few extra cents for the infrastructure that can be created by taxes. Again, though, that's the taxpayer's choice to decide upon that. And I think it also hits home the point that we need viable transportation options. Maybe we don't all have to commute from outlying areas every day and spend all our money on gas, and then we wouldn't be unfairly burdened by a tax. But I definitely support putting that out there on the ballot.
Okay, thank you. And this next question will begin with Mrs. Landquist. And what is the county commission's duty to 2/3 of the county residents who reside in the city? What has the county recently done for city residents, and what will the candidates do?
That's like a three-part question, isn't it? I've always remembered that the people that live in the city are part of the county. And that's one of the reasons we try to make sure that anytime we're looking at anything that may influence the taxes going up, that would be an all-county tax, we toe the reins on that very tightly and try really, really hard at not to do that. So we support them in their taxes and keeping them as low as possible. And we support them in other issues. I'm working with some people in the the area of Miller Creek that's incorporated that's having an urban deer problem. You know, when they contact us and they're in the city, we will take their call, their complaint, see if there's someone on the city to help work on that collectively with us. And sometimes a councilman or councilwoman will take that on. Sometimes we work on it together. But yeah, the people in the city are very much still a part of the county. We represent them all. Did I hit all parts of that pretty much? You read it so fast.
Yeah, I kind of forgot what it is, but. So that's something I have an issue with, and I've been out during my campaign talking to the constituency, and it's an issue that I think a lot of people kind of feel exists, that there is Missoula City and there is Missoula County, and there shall the two meet. And I think that's a problem. Missoula City is 2/3 of the population of the county, and we are county commissioners, and we need to be very much more involved with the city. There are not great interagency relationships and cooperation. We are splitting city and county services because the city wants to get things done and the county wants to hold things back. I think we need to work together and find solutions that we can all work together and actually get things done. I believe we do need to be more invested as county commissioners in what goes on in the city and work with that structure.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Davies?
The city-county in Butte is a combined one, and I have focused some energy thinking about that, and we do not fit that model. So I'm not in favor of a consolidation because we got too many outlying parts. The folks in the city do utilize many of the county entities, like the Missoula Aging Services, the airport, the county roads, and so the city folks do benefit from that, but it is a very tough question. How do you improve the relationships between the city and the county to make sure that the folks in the city are getting their fair shake in their tax dollars? I really, I have always tried to live outside the city because of the large tax burden, and I'd rather pay for some gas, maybe gas tax. And so I'm not involved with the city issues so much, so I'm not going to give any bad statements because I'm not really that up on it. So thank you.
Okay. This next question, we'll start with Ms. Rowley. The question is, Missoula County has lost a significant amount of farmland to development. What can the county do to help save what is left of Missoula County's best farmland?
We need to be proactive and develop a land use plan. County zoning doesn't have to be a bad thing. We need to come up with a consensus as to the good farmland that we need to keep. We need to protect that farmland, and the areas that are not so useful for that can be used for development. There does have to be a balance struck. As we grow, if we want Missoula to grow, there does have to be development. But one of our most precious resources and makes us all want to stay in Missoula is because we do have our ag land and our open spaces, and it's very important to maintain those. And a plan is necessary to protect that. And so we need to work on getting down what we want and stick to it, protect what we have, and yet have a growth plan that we can follow so that we can grow into Missoula as we see it growing into the future. It makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Davies?
Having grown up with parents that came from the agricultural industry and moved to the timber industry, I think Missoula County is fortunate to have some remaining ag land left. I do think that if we're going to try to protect the agricultural land, that we make sure that the owners of that land are not unfairly treated, that if you zone something agricultural and then prevent somebody from developing it, you are creating a wealth transfer of some sort. And so we need to be very careful. We need to work with folks and make sure that they're comfortable with it. I do appreciate the open space bonds that are in place and all the work that's being done there. We need to continue that. We do have huge amounts of national forest land here in this county, and we are so fortunate to have the rivers and the other open space that I don't know that we need to spend a lot of tax dollars focusing on that, but we do need to look at the agricultural land and see what's valuable, what's not, and start with that premise.
Yeah, that's one of the problems that's already been identified for a long time in our subdivision regulations and our growth policy, is that there's no predictable method for protecting ag land, and that is required by state law, as is protecting riparian areas and wildlife corridors. So how do we do that without infringing on a person's right when they're tired and old, the kids don't want to come back and farm, and they want to sell out? Well, that's one of the things that will be written into our subdivision regulations as we move forward in the next year and a half. That's being worked on, and more public meetings will be happening very soon on it. We've already done a lot of working with various different groups to get their ideas. Our Community and Planning's Services Office is collecting all that information and putting together a bag of tools that will be predictable. And I've challenged that planning services to put as many tools in the toolbox as possible, because we've got to be able to have a way to make it as fair and equitable, whether it's transfer of development rights or purchasing rights or just set aside so much. We can already, state law allows us to set aside so much ag land in lieu of park land, because some areas don't need a park, but they need some agriculture. So it really, and one size will not fit all. As you look around Missoula, every place is different from another, so we don't know what we're going to have to protect, but we need to protect something that's there if it's identified, one of those special features. And I've also been advocating, whether it be Five Valleys Land Trust or CFAC, to start a land trust to be able to actually purchase those development rights, because for some ranchers, that's the only thing that they will view as fair and equitable, and I want us to be able to have that big tool in our toolbox.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to make a request here that anybody's got to write a question for the county commissioners. This is the last call. So I appreciate anybody to submit the questions, and we'll go from there. Okay, I think we're back to Ms. Rowley for our first question. Correct?
I think it's you. I went first last time.
Okay. The question is, what are your plans for economic development in Missoula County? Go ahead.
Oh, me? Oh, okay. For economic development. So there's a lot of different ways to develop the economy, and I think that we need to take really an all of the above approach and foster different things. It's not a bad thing necessarily to bring in externally owned companies. The problem with that sometimes is they're $10 an hour jobs. They don't pay a living wage. They're really not boosting our economy, although there are great companies that can come in and boost us. We also need to focus on fostering grassroots entrepreneurial efforts and development that matches our growth plans, pays a living wage, offers equal pay for equal work, and generates dollars to be spent at home. So I don't feel that the county is extremely involved or proactive in promoting economic development, and I think that's the first step, is really getting excited about it, getting in there, talking to people, figuring out the best things to do. I am not an economics expert by any means, but I definitely think that there are people who are, and I want to listen to what they have to say and help Missoula grow, because I really do. I want to stay here, I want to raise my family here, and I need a good job to do that. So I am very invested in the economic growth of Missoula.
Thank you. As a CPA, I have been involved in quite a few businesses, working with them, and my wife owns a retail shop, and so we're invested in the local business community here too. I believe that we need to get the infrastructure in place before we can create better jobs. We need to work to protect the environment and offset it with economic growth. We need to be sure to not do any more damage And things like the Keystone Pipeline, if there's a big enough bond put up by the companies, they'll do the protections necessary to ensure that they protect the environment. There are economic ways to allow business to operate without creating, roadblocks in the way. We do need to involve all the parties. We need to involve the university and the city and the county and all the nonprofits around in the discussion of how to move forward with the business. The local environment for business to start up is not good. We had an issue starting up the retail shop where we had a little vinyl sign that was going up on the existing awning that was the local planning, I think it was the local planning department, said we had to have an engineering report for that little sign putting on an existing awning where a vinyl sign had just been taken off. And it's things like that that make you not want to deal with government and try to go into business. So I'm hoping that when I get in there, I can do a lot of good using my background as a CPA.
Okay. Landquist?
I will remain supportive of the efforts that we're already involved in with the Missoula Economic Partnership, which is an initiative the mayor got started and partnered up with the county and a bunch of private sectors to do, and they're doing really good work already, scouting new businesses to locate here, researching and reaching out to existing businesses to see what their needs are, because they're busy running their businesses. They don't know about some of the grant programs and initiatives that we have to offer, and so that work is going on. We're also in the middle of doing a industrial site survey to look throughout Missoula County to see what industrial sites we have, and that means where they're located, if they're located near the railroad, the interstate, whatever, so that we can better market Missoula and market those sites. And that we also just engaged in a broadband high-speed survey, and that's still going on, but the things that we learned about that was that businesses will locate here, but they need, too oftentimes these days, high-speed infrastructure, and that's not here. And so one of the things we can do to improve that is as we replace sewer lines and other lines that are embedded in our roads, we can put the pipes in, the conduit, so to speak, for those broadband lines, working with other utility companies so that we can make Missoula much more marketable for the future that lies ahead for the companies that need those sorts of infrastructures. It's just probably more misunderstood than anything how much Missoula County really is involved in improving our economy.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rowley?
Sure.
I have more to add.
Oh. So, well, we got the last 2-minute question, and we'll start with Ms. Landquist, and that is, how would you improve communication between the county commissioners, the county attorney's office, and the sheriff's office?
This is such an exciting time for us. I'm so looking forward to improving that communication, and that's going to start with the fact that we will have a newly elected sheriff. We'll have a newly elected county attorney, and we have a new chief administrative officer coming into our office to replace Dale Bickle moving to the city. And one of the things that made us choose Vicki is her ability to effectively communicate, establish policies, procedures, and it's not like we haven't had policies and procedures in place already as far as how often we met with the sheriff department on a monthly basis, how often we met with the county attorney's office on a weekly basis, but it's the content of those meetings that I think needs to change, and how we work together, and the receptiveness of we're all in this together. And when your department does something, it's kind of like what my daddy used to tell me before I left the house as a teenager. He'd say, "What's your name?" And I'd have to tell him what my last name was, same as yours actually, my maiden name, TJ Dermott. that you don't do anything to disgrace the family name. We're all in this together. We all represent the county, and we need to make sure that all of our departments carry that message, and customer service, customer service, customer service. And it's the people out there, all of our taxpayers and residents, even the ones not paying taxes yet, if you're a resident, we still serve you. You are our people, and we are here to serve you and give you the best service possible. And that's what I'm looking forward to being able to facilitate if I'm fortunate to get another term.
There is going to be new leadership in the attorney's office and the sheriff's office. Let's keep it going with new enthusiastic leadership at the commission level as well. I think that this is a great time to collaborate, build new relationships, start communication. It's built on mutual respect, professionalism, and working towards common goals. I think I excel in those areas, and I hope the new leadership in the other areas follow that as well. I definitely am for the customer service approach. My work with the health department can be construed as a negative experience. It's been very positive. I've worked very well with the public. I've worked very well with businesses and with government agencies. Communication, I think, is key in all relationships for the government, and I can excel at that. And I'm excited to work with the attorney's office and sheriff's office for organizational change in all three of our departments.
Communication is a two-way street, and I believe that from the very get-go that the new commissioner needs to meet one-on-one on a regular basis with each one of the newly elected positions to understand where they're coming from, to understand what their goals, to understand what the needs of the department are, and what the needs communicated to them by the citizens are. And if we work on the transparency in getting the word out on the internet, and if we work on regular meetings, and we work on just being folks. My work right now, I deal with all the finance and commissioners and city councils, school boards, and that's the best part of my job, is getting to visit with people, find out what's going on, figure out what their needs are, figure out solutions to problems. And that's the satisfying part of what I do now. And I'd like to bring that to the county commission office.
Okay, thank you. So, as the moderator is going to take liberty at asking one last question, and I'm going to ask the question and then do one other thing here. But the last question is, you have 1 minute to tell me what is the best thing about Missoula County. So you'll have 1 minute, and to the audience, I want to thank you for your diligence, your patience, and your questions. Again, we will start here in a few minutes, probably around 8 o'clock with the second forum, and you're all invited to attend. So, Ms. Rowley, you're the first one up.
You can pick them.
Yeah, I know. I think you're up.
So I love Missoula County because of its vitality, its diversity. There's people who care about so many various different things. There's open-mindedness. You can believe what you want. You can do what you want. It's difficult, but because of the economy, but you really can come and find your niche and succeed. I love the open lands. I love living out in Lolo. I live up on the 12 and having the beautiful views, but being able to come into a beautiful city that's got a vital downtown area as well, and kind of have the best of both worlds here. It's great, and again, I really am settled here, and I'm going to raise my family here. I'm a Missoulian for life, so.
Mr. Davies.
Thank you. I echo Cola's comment about the diversity. It's great to have the ability to meet and discuss and share with people all across the board here. And I really enjoy working with those kind of folks that are willing to share and spend time explaining where they're coming from, what they've done, and you know, it's all about people. That's what the commissioners are, and I really enjoy that portion of the work I do now, and I look forward to doing that in the future.
Almost going to sound like another ditto. Again, it's the people, but it's not just the people. Again, as a military brat, I had the opportunity to live all over the world. When I lived here in the mid-60s, fell in love with it. I was just kind of a kid. I got pulled away, followed my dad's career, came back about 10 or so years later as a young adult right after high school because of the people. I got to see and meet people all over the world and all over the country. It pales in comparison to Missoula because of our diversity, because of our kindness, because of our big hearts. There was a time when we first moved here, my dad broke down on the highway. He was embarrassed. He was a handyman, fix anything. He was embarrassed. Nobody would pass by until he got the car up and running. That's the kind of people we have in Missoula. We still have those people today. And we have the culture and the arts and the diversity. And 5 minutes out of town's a little bigger. 10 minutes out of town now, you're out in the sticks playing and recreating. And we have recreation around town that most people only dream of.
Okay. Thank you, candidates, and thank you. And we'll take a short break and return about